Yeah, get Salem to mommy. I really miss him. But like I said, if they really think that I'm a harm to him, if anybody really believes that, then don't give him to me. But make sure he's safe, because he's not. He's surrounded by criminals.
Violent criminals at that.
Real life stories to bring awareness to domestic violence, human trafficking, and systemic corruption. Welcome to our podcasts and lives. We are so happy that you joined us and hope that you like and follow us, and would love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let the show begin.
So what happened to your arm?
This is my 13th major surgery. I had a bad car accident in May 15th of 2003. I don't know if you can see my neck. I'll try. Hold on, Leonard. Are you able to see the back of my neck?
Not very well. It does look like there's some bruising.
That was my third neck surgery.
Ow.
Yeah, I almost got paralyzed over 20 years ago from a major car accident. So like, here's number 1 surgery, here's number 2 surgery. My whole neck is metal from 1 through 7.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I'm grateful you're still here. Look at you kicking ass, not bothering with names. Shoot.
I have a huge scar down my abdomen.
Ow. Is that from the car accident as well?
It's related. So they didn't listen for years. I had a bruised liver, hemangioma. It was real tiny. Years ago, I had a hemangioma that the doctors ignored for many years because it was tiny. They said, well, we'll just keep an eye on it. But my accident was in New Jersey, and then I moved down here to Florida, and healthcare is here.
Yeah, a lot of things in Florida happens to be that way.
Oh my gosh, the food and the healthcare.
Trafficking. Florida and Texas are hot spots for trafficking.
Yeah, number 1 for pedos. Yeah, way bad for healthcare and food. But hey, if you got a kid, we'll have sex with them.
Yeah, it's pretty bad down there. And good luck raising any kind of awareness.
That's my son.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the doctors ignored me about my spot on my liver that was in New Jersey. They monitored it for me. It was growing slowly. But with all the stress down here, my son's biological father lives a mile right down the road that way. 14 years ago, he forced himself on me, and that's how I got pregnant. I was too scared to press charges. There's a police report. 18 pages. I was at the hospital and a rape kit was performed. I had known the guy, Danielle, for about a year. And we did have sex a few times before that, which was really rough. And I told him I didn't like that. The day he raped me, he showed up here. He was calling me first. I had taken his brother to the hospital the night before. He had, I think it was kidney stones. I took him to the hospital. They gave him this medicine and he fell asleep on my couch. And I went to bed and he had to get up for work early in the morning. Chad, my son's father, Chad Dukes, he called me the next day and he's yelling at me and cursing me out. And he's like, you had sex with my brother's not. I'm like, no, I didn't. I said he had to go to the hospital. I had sex with somebody that was peeing stones?
That doesn't even almost make any sense.
He didn't care. He just knew that his brother was here in my house, but we weren't together anyway. If I did have sex with his brother, what was in his business? But I did. I mean, the guy was peeing stones out of his weenie.
Right.
Like, okay, that makes sense.
Try to help somebody out.
He was so mad at me. And then he comes over here and he grabbed my arms like that. He put one hand here and one hand here and threw me on my bed. Brought me in the house, threw me on my bed and forced himself on me. And I was crying and I told him, you're hurting me. And that's when and then he went in my bathroom and then he came out here to the living room and acted like nothing happened.
Yeah, it's scary how much of a twisted sense of being that perpetrators like that have, how they can do something so violent and they do so without a second thought.
He called me when he got home, told me he loved me and stuff.
Wow.
Well, what? Like, all right, what?
The level of narcissism there is just off the charts and disgusting.
When I moved here, I didn't know anybody here, and I thought people were my friends, and they weren't. I got in trouble when I moved here. I had a possession charge. I had a possession for cocaine charge. It was in like some little candy tin. They said there was resin in it. I don't know if there was or not. It wasn't even mine. There was like a little Altoid tin in my car. I don't know if there was. I don't know. They probably set me up. I don't know. My father was a cop. And maybe it was a public defender, but I had a paid lawyer. So maybe it was a prosecutor that asked me, like, why did you plead guilty to that? I'm like, because possession is 9/10 of the law. It was in my car. They're like, it wasn't on you. Like, you could have gotten off of this charge completely. I'm like, but it was in my car. They all looked at me like, oh my God. Like, it was in my car. I'm like, possession is 9/10 of the law. It was in my car. They're looking at me like, oh my God. You've never done.
Wow, a real human being that accepts responsibility like,
I'm
for
like,
something you didn't even need to accept a responsibility for.
I'm like, you understand that this was in my car and they're saying there was cocaine resin in it. I'm like, it's my car, possession. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, they're like, you pled guilty because it was in your car? I'm like, yes. They're like, oh my God. So I ended up getting probation. I don't even remember how long the probation was. The guy let me off of probation early because I was pregnant from a rape, and he didn't want me to have to deliver my baby while being on probation. And I had to do some like outpatient rehab thing. It was called Recovery Road. I'm still in contact with the owner of that Recovery Road place, Brenda. She's still a friend of mine. Chad made me, when he raped me, he made me late for that meeting that day. And here I am. I just get raped and I'm scared that I'm going to violate my probation. So I show up to them and I'm crying hysterically because I don't know what to do. I think that they're like mad that I'm late. And I get there and I see Brenda and my counselor, Ryan, and they called the police because of the rape. So then the police, everybody came here to my house, a forensic van and all kinds of stuff. And then they took me to the hospital, or maybe they went to the hospital first. I don't even remember. But then the detective, I chickened out, Danielle, because after they came here and stuff, he came here and he said right to my face that if I press charges on him, that he would kill me. And he said that if I sent him to jail, that somebody in his big family would kill me.
Have you checked into the statute of limitations into your state? What state are you living in?
Florida. I think they changed it. It used to only be 3 years, but now I think there's no statute. And the rape was reported that day. And I don't know how to get help, how to get him to go to prison for this. And he has my baby.
How did that happen?
After the rape, about a month later, I found out I was pregnant. And some people around here that I used to be friends with, they're telling me I had to tell him that I was pregnant. I said, no, I don't. I didn't want to tell him I was pregnant. I didn't think it was any of his business. But I was new here, and he's a big black man who's literally related to the whole town. So some people, they made me feel real weird about it, pressured me into telling him I was pregnant. I told him I was pregnant. He said, fuck you, bitch, it ain't mine. Okay. I said, you know what? You're right. It's mine. But this being a really tiny little small country town, everybody knew, and they all make a big deal about it. And throughout my pregnancy, he stalked me. He tried to make me lose Salem. I went to the emergency room at least 5 times for bleeding. He told everybody in the town that it wasn't his, that I was some crack smoking prostitute, and that I didn't know who my baby daddy was, all kinds of stuff. He terrorized me. After Salem was born, he would stalk our house, tell Salem and me that he was going to burn our house down with us in it, throw us in the lake with the alligators, shoot us with this that he has in his closet. I went to the police so many times over the years, and they wouldn't give us any kind of protection because he didn't do anything. He just said things. He didn't do anything. As my son got older, and he never wanted any kind of relationship with, say, 11 years and 8 months, I raised my son by myself. I'm on disability. Now I get $1,000 a month. It started at like $600 when I was in New Jersey. I made the mistake when Salem was born. The lady asked me if I knew for the birth certificate. She asked me if I knew who the father was, and I said his name.
I don't think they're supposed to fill that out. As the mother, I think that's you that's supposed to fill that out and sign it.
Oh, welcome to Florida. Yeah, my mom and me were in the room, and some lady came in and asked if I knew who the father was. And it just fell out of my mouth. If I was the one to fill out the birth certificate, I wouldn't have put him on there. I never would have. But I was asked a question. And of course, I'm going to answer it. He was on the police report. I know who he is.
I would look into that and see if that's even legal.
If it was me filling his birth certificate out, I wouldn't have put him on there. I wouldn't have named him. And then when Salem was a baby, because I'm on disability, I get Medicare, not Medicaid. They said that I had to comply with child support. and I didn't want child support for him. I told them that they were setting me up for failure and resentment and danger. I said, he's already threatening me. I said, you're going to make him angry. I said, why are you forcing me to go on make him go on child support for a rape child? And I told him I wanted to terminate his rights, and they said that I couldn't, that Florida doesn't do that, and that I had to comply with child support. I was going to be in contempt and all kinds of stuff, and they forced me to get DNA.
Wow.
Because I knew who the biological father was. They forced me to get DNA, and they forced me to put him on child support. So for $200 a month, $200 a month.
Lord have mercy. That's not even enough to cover hardly anything.
$110.77 every 2 weeks. So a little more, $220 a month. $110.77 every 2 weeks to have a man hate you even more.
Yeah, the system unfortunately has a serious tendency of re-victimizing victims all over again, and they put them in so much danger. It's disgusting and terrifying.
I remember when Salem was a few months old. We live in Orange Lake. We're right in between Gainesville and Ocala. And he was working in Gainesville, and I knew what time he got home because he was always stalking me. He wanted to have sex and stuff. I told him absolutely not. And I called him and I said, do you want to stop by? And he said, for what? I said, to see the baby, to see Salem. And he goes, you act like I got to see him every day. I said, you don't have to see him every day. You don't have to see him at all. I said, Chad, I said, do you understand that there are men out there that pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to fight to see their children every other weekend, if that? I said, and you have an open door to see this baby whenever you want.
Which, considering his violent nature, he shouldn't have even had that right.
I know. It just wasn't in me. I was so scared of everybody. And everybody around here was saying that I was keeping him from him and all this stuff. And all I ever wanted was for him to want a relationship with him. And I didn't force it. He's got 7 children total.
Does he have anything to do with the others?
Barely.
Wow.
But to everybody else, he acts like he's a good father.
Did he take you to court and request to have, did he ask for custody simply because he was out of retaliation for child support?
My son tried to kill himself.
Oh, that is so heartbreaking.
As Salem got older, Chad never called for his birthday. None of them ever sent any birthday cards. We live a mile away from these people. In April of 2021, we were down at the lake, and the father slammed me in the chest right after my big surgery. My big surgery was 4 years ago, February. I asked Chad if he would help watch Salem while I was in the hospital. He said, fuck you, bitch. I ain't got time for your shit. That surgery was almost fatal. By the time the doctors listened to me about that, the hemangioma grew to the size of a grapefruit and almost killed me.
Oh, my Lord.
So it was almost an emergency surgery. I met my surgeon and he scheduled me. I met him on a Wednesday. He scheduled me for surgery that following Tuesday. I didn't have time to prepare for that. And around here, I live in a tiny little small poor town. There's nobody to call for help. My mom lives in Pennsylvania. And she's going to be 80 this year. So she was already 76. This is a weird area. There's not many people to count on. So a year after my surgery, I'm messed up from that. So we were down at the lake. The father was there. I didn't know he was there. And he slammed me in the chest. I went flying. The father just never wanted to be around him. So I was saying, as Salem got older, he wants his dad to be a dad. What kid doesn't? What kid doesn't? As adults, we don't understand when somebody who's supposed to love us doesn't.
I imagine, too, with him being a little boy, having that male role model, I would assume makes... I don't have I have girls, so I'm not really sure how all that works, but right. I imagine that it was a bit more of an intense connection or desire for anyways.
Right. Boys want to do boy things. And we're girls. We don't understand that. I mean, we do. We get it, but we can't help them like that. And the other thing is with boys, over the years, I haven't dated because anytime a guy would have interest in me, Salem didn't want that. He wanted a man around, but for him and only for him. So if I met a nice guy, he was kind of all for it until that nice guy showed interest in his mom. And then Salem's like, no. And he would sabotage that. So the man wouldn't have any interest in me because he was like, this kid is pain in the ass. Right. which boys do with single moms. You can't have my mom.
Girls do too. I experienced that with my youngest daughter.
Right, because we're theirs.
And also there's that level of trauma as well. If there was a domestic violence situation where the child witnessed trauma or anything like that, that can intensify that as well.
Because he's always stalked us. He's always been violent. Kids are going to be protective. And we belong to them. They're afraid of us getting hurt. They have to protect us. They're afraid of losing us. They're super jealous. But he still wants that male figure. And it's still his dad. He wants his dad to be his dad. He wants something that doesn't exist.
Well, children don't really have the ability to comprehend situations and circumstances to the full extent. Their brains are still so underdeveloped and immature, and they don't associate danger properly and different situations for what they are versus what they view them as.
On top of this, Salem's high functioning autistic. I was awaiting his evaluation. He wasn't in the right therapy. He didn't have the right doctors. Thank you, Florida. I took him to so many doctors and they kept telling me that there wasn't anything wrong and because he makes his milestones. I homeschooled him. And I'm telling them that he's doing all these things. He's hurting the animals. He's cutting things up. He's urinating in my vents. He's cutting the furniture. Different things about his sensory issues. He can't eat certain things. And then he'll only eat certain things. And he has to match. Has to. This isn't a want. His clothes have to be certain. If that kid can't wear certain things, then he's not going to leave the house. If his underwear and socks don't match the rest of his outfit, he's not leaving.
There's a lot of sensory and compulsive elements to autism in general.
And you don't make a big deal out of it. That's just him. If he wants to look like a blueberry for 5 days in a week, 5 days in a row, that's fine. He's my blueberry. There's nothing wrong with it. And I miss that. Oh, I really miss that. Yeah, and you can't pick on them for that. There's so many more things in life that are important. There's so many things that aren't important, but they're important to them.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be important to us. Who cares? Right? Because if it bothers him, it bothers him.
Absolutely. Kids are entitled to have their own opinions and feelings and emotions, and it's important that we recognize those as well.
He's been that way since he's like 2 years old, and maybe before that. The first time my son was Baker acted, he was 9 years old because I had to do it for him. I had to call the police on Salem at 9 years old because, he was doing a lot of dangerous things that you have to care about because he has really violent, uncontrollable outbursts and he was almost the same size as me. And with all my disabilities, I can't. You would think that these Baker Act facilities would discuss what was going on with your child. No. After 3 days having him there, they just called me up and said, you have to come get him. He's fine. How?
Wow.
How is a 9-year-old that you just had for 3 days that was saying that he didn't want to be on this earth anymore fine? Nobody's fine in this situation.
It's really scary how much of our parental rights have been stripped through the years. It's our responsibility. We are held responsible to some pretty crazy levels, yet they don't allow us to have access to the information and the services and such that we need to be able to effectively care for our children sometimes.
Right. Well, if they let us have access to all that, then they won't be able to steal them from us. Don't want to tell us everything that's going on because then we might actually help our children.
So when did the tables turn to, is he currently living there full time with him? Do you still have visitation, or what was the situation with that?
Salem was Baker acted at 9 and then 2 times when he was 11. And then he tried himself right there on August 1st of 2022. Thank God I was able to save him, but he beat me up pretty bad. And he ran out of the house and I tried to look for him. I got in my truck. I searched the immediate area right away and I came home and I called 911. I didn't want to because calling the police I knew wasn't going to help. But I was so scared because I didn't know where he was and I didn't want him to get taken by somebody or killed or I didn't want him to hide in the woods somewhere and we'd never find him. The police came and they kept telling me he was going to have to be Baker acted. DCF got involved and they put my son with his biological father that day. They never had him evaluated. Salem told the police that I told him to hang himself.
Lord.
Major Crimes never came here to see what happened. Salem actually told them that he was hanging with his feet dangling and lost consciousness at some point even, but that he was able to release himself. He had one mark right here.
And they didn't stop and do any kind of an investigation? Did they even question you?
I told them everything that happened, and then no. And on top of it, why were they questioning a minor for several hours without me or without an advocate?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge violation of constitutional law, if I'm not mistaken.
I have everything on my TikTok, on my Facebook. I have a lot of the body cam posted. I spent 2 days in jail for aggravated child abuse charge, $10,000 bond. No investigation was done. They told me that they were bringing us to this Kimberly Crisis Center in Ocala, Florida, that they were going to interview Salem and then they were going to interview me. They never interviewed me. They had me detained for over 10 hours, came out and placed me under arrest for aggravated child abuse. Based on what? Based on a very confused, sick little boy that's already been Baker acted 4 times in the past.
So was that their only evidence?
He said I told him to hang himself. And the marks on him, one small red mark right here, this big, as big as my finger, in the front of his neck.
Well, yeah, assuming from the rope.
My service animal's metal dog chain. But he said he was hanging. He said I picked him up over my head and was choking him with it. He also said that I beat him with the chain. He had a mark on his shoulder, and I think on there, he also had a bump right here on his head. The bump on here on his head was from 2 days prior, and I have pictures of it. I don't even know. It might have been a mosquito bite because he's like really allergic to them. I had marks all over me. They didn't take one picture of me.
Wow.
No investigation. When you watch the body cam, it's full of so many lies. The EMTs laughed at my son. At one point, Salem's sitting in the back of the patrol car with the door wide open. Meanwhile, I'm in handcuffs in the other patrol car with the cop that had Baker acted my son in the 2 months prior.
So they knew it was an ongoing issue.
Yep. The other cop, Justin Cheney, that Salem was in, his vehicle, that cop, get this, Daniel, you're going to love it. Justin Cheney and Kevin Turner were 2 cops. Kevin Turner was a rookie, 2.5 years on the force. Both of them had been out to my residence about 20 times for issues with Salem with this behavioral stuff. And like I said, they Baker acted him a couple months before, where he admitted to them that he wanted to kill himself. Justin Cheney, on August 1st of 2022, was under active investigation for theft, lying, and stealing from an incident on May 19th of 2022. 2 weeks after the incident here on August 1st, 2022, he was fired for the theft, lying, and failure to activate his body cam footage.
And nobody thought to reinvestigate your case?
They have been refusing.
Unbelievable.
While I was being illegally detained, you can see on the body cam footage Justin Cheney and my 11-year, 8-month-old son coming into my home with no permission and no warrant together. And Justin Cheney taking photos inside my home and taking the metal dog chain. He comes in my house with my son. My son takes stuff out of his room. I don't know what he took because Cheney blurred his camera when Salem was in his room. Salem, my son, tells Cheney to take pictures of the bolts that used to be up in this wood. I had a neighbor take them out. It's too much. Salem is leading his investigation.
That's just crazy.
Salem shows Cheney where I put Diva's choker chain. Cheney has it in his hand, and he's literally throwing it up in his hand like this, playing with it as he walks out of my house across the driveway, through the gate, across the road, and then puts it into an evidence envelope in the back of his vehicle. What?
That doesn't seem like the proper method of collecting evidence.
My dad was a cop for 40 years in Bronx, Fort Apache. Right. No, right. That's not how you collect evidence. You definitely don't collect evidence with a minor child leading your investigation.
So after CPS got involved, they just took him. Was there a court process that you went through where you had the opportunity to plead not guilty?
The child protective investigator, Ashley Hossiter, showed up on the scene. She's on body cam footage saying that there's known domestic violence between me and the father, no relationship between the child and the father, but let me call my supervisor and have it pushed through to have him put there.
Wow. That's ballsy for an investigator to flat out admit all of the concerning issues and then push to have that child placed in a dangerous situation anyways.
Especially because their rules and protocol are to keep the child in the most home-like setting and like setting that he's already been in.
Right. So did you go to court? What did they end up charging you with?
I was in jail for the first 2 days. So the shelter hearing was over the phone where they said he's been placed with his father. Next hearing is like a month away. And your attorney is this person. I called and my attorney was not that person. It was some other guy. My first hired attorney was for the criminal was $15,000 by Andy Pizzuto. When I talked to him, he said, it's obvious your son is lying. What you've been accused of is not physically possible. Okay. I bailed out. They didn't let me use the phone the whole first day. The next night they let me use the phone. I couldn't get through to my mom. She couldn't hear me. She said, I gave all my bank information to my neighbors across the street. And then she gave it to the bail people. I bonded out at like 4 a.m. I got out. I went and got all of Salem's medical records, the Baker Acts from Ocala, the Baker Act in Gainesville. I met with the attorney. I went to the police station and requested the body cam footage. It took me a few months to get that, even though the criminal attorney said he was getting it. He never got it. I got all of it. 15 grand. And then he's telling me that he doesn't have anybody in the office to watch that stuff.
Well, God forbid if you do your job.
Yep. So this all started in August. Then we had different court dates. And I started catching on that nobody works for you.
Yeah, anytime you're in any kind of situation like this, the system sets you up for failure, and it's a fend for yourself type sort of situation in many cases. Unfortunately, everything is just so scattered. Like when it comes to anything domestic violence related and things of that nature, you've got the criminal courts that you have to deal with. And then for any kind of a protection order, that's civil court. And then for any kind of anything involving children is then family court. That right there is 3 different court systems that you have to deal with. But family courts don't provide attorneys.
This isn't family court. This is called dependency courts. I couldn't even hire a family lawyer to help me, which is easy to hire because this is DCF related. So it's dependency court.
Lord, I didn't even realize there was another one. Good God almighty. That's just ridiculous.
You have to hire a special attorney that deals with DCF. Good luck with that. They have their own lawyers.
Well, that's all just pure fraud and corruption as it is anyways.
Try finding a lawyer that goes against DCF.
You probably had about as easy of a time accomplishing that as I had trying to find an attorney to go up against a Catholic church.
Right, there it is. I called so many numbers. Are like, we don't do dependency cases, conflict of interest, we don't do. There was one attorney in Tampa. She wanted $100,000.
My God.
I'm like, I don't have $100,000.
What the serious fuck? Like how I don't understand how this system gets away with pulling crap like that, requiring you to have a specific attorney, limiting those attorneys, and then having them so extravagantly priced that you have no choice but to defend yourself.
And I've been permanently disabled for over 20 years and trying to learn this stuff at 48 years old and going through this.
Oh yeah, the PTSD and the trauma alone is just so overwhelming and all consuming. And it doesn't just affect your emotional aspects of your health. It absolutely affects your physical well-being as well, because it all works together.
Yep. I've had 4 surgeries in the past 20 months. My doctors are thankful I'm alive. And all I do is talk about the case. They're like, Heidi, are you taking care of yourself? I'm like,
there is no such thing. I mean, and the system makes sure of it. They overwhelm you and inundate you with just so much shit. And it's nonstop. And they just drag you through the mud and drain you emotionally, physically, financially, you name it, they do it.
Well, because they don't want the truth out.
Absolutely.
In August, when this happened, about a week into it, this woman, Zara Sinclair, with this accent. She's a black woman, and she talks with that like foreigner kind of accent, like islandy. And to Ashley Hostetter, she's a big country looking white woman, the child protective investigator, who said no domestic violence, no relationship, but let me call my supervisor and push it through to have him placed with the father. She said because the father has a right to him. What right?
Pretty sure that goes through a court. A court dictates that. And he is the one that is supposed to initiate that if that's what he chooses.
Simply because he's the biological father. She was saying he has a right to him. Hostetter was out here for Salem's Last Baker Act, both of them. He said the reason he wanted to kill himself was because the father lives right down the road and wants nothing to do with him. It makes him sad, frustrated, angry, depressed. Give him to him. Give him to him. Give him to the one reason. Give him to the main reason that makes my son feel like he doesn't belong in this world.
Yeah, it's really sad that they get involved like that, and it destroys lives. And there are so many children that end up dead because of situations like that, because they are forcing these kids to be in dangerous situations. Mm-hmm. And then there's no follow-up, there's no follow-through.
No. So they come here, Ashley Hostetter, Zara Sinclair, and they brought a young white woman in her early to mid-20s with them named Alyssa Fritzy. They told me that was my new case manager. I'm like, new case manager, as if I had one already? Who was the original case manager? I'm thinking that maybe because Ashley Hostetter was the CPI, so they're assigning a case manager. So they introduced me to Alyssa Fritzy. And so I'm telling her, I'm giving her my name is, like my phone numbers and stuff like that. She had a pad and pen with her. Zara's telling her she doesn't need to write anything down. So I told Zara to stop. And I told Alyssa, I said, please write my phone numbers down. I said, please. I said, you brought your pen and paper for a reason. Use them. I went and met with Alyssa, had like a 2-hour meeting with her. She sent me this email. I'll forward you the email if you want, because it's got all kinds of details in it about homeschooling and me taking care of him and stuff like that. And right after that, Zara Sinclair, they banned Alyssa from speaking to me. They said, and I was only allowed to speak with the supervisors, Darcinia Graham and Zara Sinclair. And then they weren't talking to me either. They said my demands were too much or something because I was asking for Salem's height and weight monthly and a full body picture. So
why is that so much of a demand, especially for a child that's disabled and has autistic issues? I mean, of course, you're going to want to make sure that he's eating and exercising properly and getting the proper care and nutrition and staying on track of things.
They rescheduled Salem's evaluation for autism from November to January. They completely messed it up because they can't take him to they can't take him. Nobody knows him. You have to have somebody that raised him.
Right, to provide information.
Yep. They took him out of the mental health therapy that I had him in. They put him in another therapy at that Kimberly Crisis Center. They took him to go to therapy to the same place they took him the day of incident.
Wow. Sounds like they've got some sort of something going on with that organization that's being kept secretive and swept under the rug, and not much transparency there.
In the 3 notes that they filed with the court from Kimberly Crisis Center from Salem's therapy, they took him out and then they waited 3 months and they put him in 3 months of therapy at Kimberly Crisis Center with the director there, Roberta Lapp. They said they claimed PTSD. And I talked to that lady and she said his case was closed out. I said, why? And she said, I felt that he benefited from the therapy and no longer needed any. I said, PTSD. I said, you cured my son for PTSD in 3 months. I said, can I come see you?
That's just absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, this child had years of something going on for him to be Baker acted so many times over the duration of an extended period of time. Now, there's no kind of special fix for that.
Right. They're claiming he's absolutely fine, that I was the whole problem. They're saying that I was Salem's entire problem and that he's absolutely happy there. Salem was 70.
So do they provided records and such indicating that that's accurate? Or is everybody just expected to take their word for it?
Yep. I have his medical records. He was 76 pounds and 4'10" on August 1st of 2022. He was 66 pounds by January, 4'9¼ and 62 pounds by March 13th of 2023.
Is he eating at all?
I don't know.
That's a tremendous weight loss, especially considering he's still growing in height.
He hasn't grown. He shrunk. He was 4'10.5" on August 1st, and then they have him listed as 4'9.28". I don't know if he was slouching or if his spine is decompressing because he's like this all the time playing video games.
Right.
Maybe they have him like locked up or something where he can't stretch out.
I don't know. That's definitely not normal, though.
And everybody told me, the local kids, because they threw him into public school. He was always homeschooled. They threw him into public school 9 days after incident, Danielle. So they took everything and everyone away from him, changed his complete environment. Nobody would be okay doing that.
Yeah, that's very manipulative, and that's very dangerous to do with a child that's autistic as well. With any child, it's not good to create that much change. That's a lot of adjusting for a young child to do.
Right, and he doesn't have any pictures. They won't give him any pictures of me or his dogs or anything. They took everything and everyone away from him. They won't even let him see his dog. And they said he's happy? No. He went from the 50th percentile to the first.
That's just so, I mean, that alone is extremely concerning.
We filed, I'll send you the motion for medical. The judge denied it because she said DCF says he's fine.
Wow. They all work together. They do. The court system and DCS, the level of corruption is disgusting.
Oh, 8 months into the case, because they won't communicate with me, I find out because nobody would send me the Zoom link for a court date in April of 23. I went to the court and they say I have to get it from the lawyer or from the caseworker. I find out a list of, when I called the number that the court gave me, the receptionist says to me, she says, you have to call the case manager. I said, Alyssa Fritzy. She goes, no. She goes, I don't see that. I'm like, that's the case manager. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, no, Yvette Anderson. I'm like, I never heard that name. And I was recording. I told the lady I was recording the call for legal purposes. Yvette Anderson. I said, what about Dara Sinclair Darcy Gam? She goes, no. I said, you don't see that? No. The only 2 names she saw listed on my case was Yvette Anderson and Erica Smith. 2 names I never heard in 8 months.
So all your other paperwork from them has the other names on it and they're not mentioned at all?
They never gave me any paperwork.
Wow.
Yvette Anderson is the biological father, Chad Duke's cousin.
It's all just one great big gross spider web to destroy people's lives.
I actually went down to the court annex and I got Yvette Anderson's dissolution of marriage, and I brought it to the local DCF office and I spoke with a supervisor there, and he told me it's a clear conflict of interest, but he's a lower supervisor. And he told me the case that should not have ever happened. It needs to be conflicted out. Then it was referred to their legal team. I talked to the director, this and that. I filed a complaint, and people are saying this is an open and shut case. Yvette Anderson admitted at the TPR trial January 8th of this year that yes, she was she's related to Chad Dukes by marriage, and that is her cousin, but she hadn't seen him in 8 or 9 years, and she's not biased simply because she says she's not biased.
Whatever.
Everybody in the court laughed, and the judge accepted her as not being biased because she said she's not, and he accepted her as a credible witness.
My good God almighty. This is just, all you listeners out there, I hope y'all are paying attention, because this, it's we the people, and this is going to continue to happen until we force change and until we tell our lawmakers and our court systems, no, you're not going to break the law anymore, and you're going to do what we ask of you because we vote you in. It's your job.
I have evidence to anything I say. I have hard evidence to back up. And I am on my 9th court-appointed attorney for this, because every time I show them proof, they refuse to submit it and they withdraw because nobody wants to go against DCF. I'm not afraid of them.
They should be, they need to start putting some laws into place. I've been hearing about that a lot lately, and I went through that myself when I went through the bar association to find an attorney when I had complications with my daughter was going to a private school that was a Catholic school, and the amount of BS that they put us through was absolutely profoundly disgusting, and some really wrong ways. And every single person I talk to, oh my gosh, yeah, so many of your rights were violated. Now, who does this involve? Such and such Catholic school. I can't take that. And we don't handle things like that. And the person that was assigned to me through the bar, they didn't even call me. They sent me an email saying that they could not take my case due to conflict of interest.
Yeah, the conflict of interest. The lawyer I have now, Jeffrey Harper out of Gainesville, Florida, he told me that a conflict of interest that isn't a thing, that doesn't exist.
Really?
I'm like, she's related. I said, first of all, a caseworker is not allowed to even know anybody in a case. I said, she's related to him. I said, and you go on her Facebook, Yvette Anderson out of Spar, Florida. I said, she literally has it listed right there. She's the cousin to Kimberly Damon James, who is the school counselor at North Marion Middle School in Ocala. My son's guidance counselor, the school they threw him into.
Wow. Like they are like.
Kimberly Damon James is the biological father's stepsister. I'm like, come on. I said, and on there, her entire friends list, Tina Dukes is Chad's sister. I said, when you go through the friends list, I said, she's friends with hundreds of his family members. Is she friends with all of her clients? Because there's not one client on there. There's not one white person in her friends list. I said, she's on my case. How come she's not my friend?
Yeah, that's very clear and very serious conflict of interest. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that violates multiple laws as well.
Yes.
Like, and it's just crazy. I mean, these judges and these courts and CPS, they make the rules up as they go and they do whatever the hell they want. And I'm assuming that part of the reason why they do that is they know that number one, there's little to no accountability.
Yep.
And number two, as we the people, what the hell are we going to do about it? In order for us to accomplish anything, we have to, number one, find an attorney who's going to give a shit. Find an attorney that's got enough balls to actually take it to a higher court. Only Lord knows how much money that's going to cost. It takes years sometimes to go through a court process just in regular court, much less if you're appealing or trying to get something into a higher court. It still just carries on and your life is just screwed and trashed and destroyed the whole time along the way while you play that waiting game.
Yep. And my son did a deposition last year for my first criminal attorney. First one was $15,000. The second one to get me out of jail was $20,000. That's another. I went to jail last year for a TikTok post. Florida statute says social media is not allowed to be used against anybody in a court of law. 49 days over.
For what? What was the post about?
So Andy Pizzuto gave me the full copy of the 2-hour deposition of Salem. And then he withdrew the next month because I kept reporting him to the bar because he's unethical. He's sabotaging my case. I transcribed all the 40 hours of body cam. Then I transcribed, and he told me, he said, I didn't think you could do it. This is impeccable work. He goes, but this isn't like the movies. We can't use it like this. It'll be used for the trial. I'm like, give it to the prosecutor. I said, clearly, you can use this to get my charge dropped. And he goes, Heidi, I told you this isn't like the movies.
Evidence is evidence.
Thank you. So I had a panic attack in his office, all this stuff. Then that was January of 23. Then comes May of 23. I let him depose Salem. He gives me the copy of it. And he tells me to transcribe it again because I transcribed all the body cam. And I wasn't going to pay $800 to transcribe my son's deposition. So I did it again. And I show Andy, Salem changed his story 3 separate times in a 2-hour deposition. Salem said that he was standing on the chair for over an hour trying to get it hooked onto the bolt and that I was sleeping the entire time and that he fell a few times. That's probably the noise that woke me up. And he said he didn't realize that I got up and was behind him.
So if you were sleeping, how was it you that told him to do such?
Right. First, he says that I kicked the chair from under him. He says I pushed it. He said I pulled it. Did I push it? Did I pull it? Did I kick it? What? Which one, Salem? And you were standing on the chair for an hour? First of all, if I told you to yourself, why didn't you just run out of the house and go across to the street to the neighbors and say she's fucking crazy?
Right.
That crazy bitch in there, my mother told me to kill myself. Why didn't you just run out? Why are you standing on the chair for an hour? And he said that he put it on himself several times while I was sleeping. He needs help. And in his deposition, he said that he was sleeping on the air mattress in here because we were camping in the living room. We used to do camping in the living room. That's fun. I had bought him a captain's bed off of Facebook Marketplace, and it came with a mattress. I didn't want to be insulting to the people, so I took it. And I bought him a brand new mattress from Amazon. He didn't want to get rid of the mattress it came with, so I put the mattress it came with on the floor for the dogs. That's not a blow-up mattress. He said that he had a perfect memory of what happened. Then why are you saying it was a blow-up mattress? The biopsychosocial with parenting index that I took, the doctor said that she thinks Salem suffered a psychotic break. I believe that Salem doesn't really know what happened that night. And in the beginning of his deposition, Andy Pizzuto, the lawyer, asked him if anybody was talking about the case in front of him or to him, and he said yes. The father's mother, and the father's girlfriend have all been talking about the case to him and about it, which makes everything he says inadmissible. And then he asked,
and only Lord knows how they're pressuring him and trying to brainwash him then, if that's the case.
He said in the TPR trial that I tried to tell him what better reason is there to not ever want to see me again. And in the TPR, that's where I was going with this, Danielle. In the deposition, Andy asked him about the TPR. He says, I know my mom's going to be upset and that he loves me. That's not a kid that understands what's going on.
Issues throughout the duration makes it pretty obvious that there's something going on with him for sure.
He doesn't never want to.
And people who are being abusive and causing that trauma are not the ones that are actively seeking help either.
Right. Oh my God. On the body cam, Salem admits that he was poisoning me.
Did they find evidence of that? Did they even look to find evidence of that?
No, he was Baker Act. I had to take him up to the hospital because the last time when I brushed my teeth, when he was here, my whole mouth started burning and I started vomiting immediately, and it was really scary. So it took me 3 days to get out of him what happened, and he admitted that he was putting floor cleaner on my toothbrush.
Oh my Lord.
I took him up to Shands, and he admitted to the doctors that he was doing that because he wanted to play his video games. He didn't want to do his schoolwork. He said that he didn't know it could kill me. He thought it would just make me sick where I couldn't get up. And he admitted to the Ashley Hostetter lady on the interior cam for Justin Cheney's vehicle. She said, at any point where you're running around talking about poison, and he goes, yeah. And she goes, how did you know that's what your mom was talking about? And he says, no. He told her that he poisoned me at least 3 times. And she says, why? And he said, because he didn't want to go to Meridian. Meridian is another mental health place. And she says she understands that he didn't want to go to the mental hospital, this and that. And she totally ignores the fact that he just admitted to her, because I told her inside here that he was poisoning me. And then she completely ignores him that he admitted he was poisoning me and goes, so I'm old, the chair swivels, blah, 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 and starts talking about that. And then she put in the petition for removal that I made him drink poison.
Oh my Lord.
He was never taken to the doctor. He was never taken to an emergency room. So there's a lot to this.
That's crazy.
We got to get him home.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We'll do everything that we can.
Jeffrey Harper from Gainesville, Florida is my 9th court-appointed attorney.
That's just crazy that you would have that many attorneys that you have to go through. And is he even doing anything to help, or is he dropping the ball?
No, I feel that he lost the termination of parental rights trial on purpose. So the 8th one, I never spoke to at all. His office, Matt McHugh in Inverness, his office told me that they were setting up for me to have a meeting in person with that one. And then 2 or 3 weeks went by. And then his office told me that he didn't practice in Marion County. Right.
What?
Now, why would the judge appoint me an attorney that didn't work in Marion County? A judge isn't going to appoint you an attorney that doesn't work in that county.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't make any sense and seems a little on the suspicious side of, what's really happening?
Assistant's not going to tell me that they're setting up for me to come in and speak with him. I mean, doesn't she know where he works?
I'm assuming that the courts have a list of attorneys.
Yes, they
and that's what they go with. I mean, she's not just going to pull that name out of thin air, I wouldn't think. And I would also assume that she's most likely used that attorney on previous occasions as well.
I'm thinking that he's actually a really good attorney and wouldn't touch my case.
It wouldn't surprise me at all, unfortunately.
Yep. So that was the 8th attorney. The 7th attorney was Lynn Buchanan. He was actually trying to do a good job for me, but I think that they got to him. Lynn Buchanan actually filed the motion for medical for me. When we got Salem's medical records that showed that Salem went from 76 pounds to 66 pounds to 62 pounds. The same doctor, Dr. Roman Casillo at Gainesville Pediatric Medicine, that gave me the referral for Salem to have an autism evaluation at Shands Pediatric, Behavioral, and Developmental. He told me to get Salem into Meridian immediately for counseling, because he told me the wait time was a long time for the evaluation. I listened to him and I got him right away into counseling, because it was COVID and stuff like that. And when I tried to get him into counseling before, SMA in Ocala, and Spring Hill at Shands, they kept canceling on us. It was really hard, because here you're trying to help your kid and you have these doctors canceling you're signing on to this telehealth stuff and nobody's showing up.
And you already feel so helpless as it is when you're dealing with a child that has any kind of emotional or mental additional needs from normal than average. That's a lot of work, and it's scary and it's overwhelming and it's frustrating, because you're right, there's already very little resources available. And then when you add on the wait times and the lack of compassion that a lot of these places have, it just complicates the entire process that much more.
She wrote back right away. Heidi, thank you for the email. I was appointed to do the appeal of the order that was entered. If the items you have on the thumb drive were not presented during the litigation and or at the trial, then I'm afraid I cannot present it to the appellate court nor refer to it in my briefs.
That is true. Yeah, you cannot enter in any new evidence when you do an appeal.
Nothing was said in the trial at all.
Then you need to look into, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, something along the lines of ineffective counsel.
Right. She said, I am not sure of how the appeal process works. It is not a new trial. It is a brief that I draft based upon the record on file, the transcripts from the hearings and case law. There is no new evidence and there is no testimony or arguments. I was just appointed today and I cannot begin working on the brief until the circuit court provides the record and the court reporter types the transcripts from the hearings. Once I have same, I will be more than happy to discuss same with you and provide you with the brief.
We'll wait and see what she says. I mean, if a lot of times everything that's said on court record through court is telling in itself. So there might be enough there, and if there was anything that was entered into evidence throughout the process, regardless of what hearing it was, anything that had to do with that ruling, they'll be able to review that. But she is correct. You cannot present new evidence or new testimony. When you speak with her again, ask her about what you can do about the fact that you had ineffective counsel throughout the process. That might be a way to get a new trial and such set.
Yeah, because they didn't even let me talk.
Yeah, I'd let that attorney know that and asked, is there a way for us to get a new trial? I had ineffective counsel that did absolutely nothing. They didn't even submit evidence on my behalf. That alone is enough to prove ineffective counsel if they didn't submit any evidence. So, I mean, that's all you can do is try that route and see what they say.
Hopefully it's in the transcript when I was saying to Harper, I have a right to face my accuser. That's my right. And Harper said that's not going to happen. And he laughed at me.
Lord have mercy. I'd be curious to see what the transcripts say as well.
Yeah, because Salem's my accuser and they didn't let me face him.
Well, I mean, it might be different with a child. I'm not sure how that works. And on top of that, when it comes to family court in general, they kind of just do whatever the hell they want. So,
right. And what about the fact that the caseworker's his cousin?
Yeah, that alone is crazy. Like they're playing with fire is what they're doing. That's definitely grounds for something. I mean, it has to be. There's no way it's not. If that's not one of the ultimate conflict of interests that I've heard, then I don't know what the hell is.
Right. It'll be okay.
One step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm. It'll be okay. Because it has to be. I like that she immediately got back to me.
Yes. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's a good, hopeful sign.
Things are going to be okay. They can't keep getting away with this stuff.
Absolutely not. It's unacceptable.
Right. And I have so much evidence against them. She'll get the transcript and she'll see for herself what happened in there. It's going to be all right.
Yeah, I hope she fights for you. You need that and you deserve that.
My son deserves better.
Absolutely. I mean, just the fact that he's lost so much weight like he has, like that's really scary.
So Lynn Buchanan, that attorney filed the motion for medical, and it seemed like she was working for me. And the magistrate, it wasn't a judge, it was in front of the magistrate, denied the motion for medical simply because DCF said he's fine. There was no evidence.
If they're going to make that claim, then they should have been required to submit evidence as to such.
The evidence they had was they took Salem to the doctor right before the hearing and actually crossed out the weight that the doctor put. The doctor put from 62 pounds to 68 pounds and wrote in 73 pounds and said that the doctor couldn't change it in the system because that's how much he weighed, and said that he's fine. So the same doctor that I took him to, Dr. Castillo, Gainesville Pediatric Medicine, in May of 2022, gave me the referral for Salem to have an autistic evaluation, had me immediately bring him to therapy. 3 months later, Salem made the attempt on his life. Then he gets taken from me because he says, my mom told me to hit myself. No, I didn't. They take him from me. December, they do a public school screening, and Salem is now 66 pounds. In the DCF case notes, they say that Salem is in the low percentile, in the 5th percentile for weight because of the mother's small frame. This was before I got his medical records.
He is a boy and he is a growing child, and your weight dictates nothing.
Better than me. Right, he's a boy. Me and him are almost the same size. And here I'm trying to still get better from these major surgeries and everything. Then months go by, I finally get his medical records, and he drops to 62 pounds March 13th of 2023. And he's now in the 1st percentile for weight. One.
There's no way that a medical facility messed up 2 different times.
No.
On putting his weight in.
The same doctor writes in. Now, when I took him, he puts this whole description about how Salem stimming and anxious and nervous, like it bites, picks, chews, picks at himself, all the things about autism, and gives him the referral. Less than a year later, when DCF takes him to his appointment, he puts petite male, annual visit, fine to go to public school, no concerns.
Wow.
What about less than a year before, when I took him, you examined him, you give him the referral for autism, you tell me to immediately put him in therapy. You have a whole sheet of descriptive things about my child, constant blinking, nail biting, stimming, all this stuff. And now less than a year later, no concerns? Petite male?
Sounds like a bunch of horse shit to me. And it's really scary, once you start doing your research, or if you have on the terrible chance that you get drawn into this and you're drug into it, I suppose is a better choice of words, and to really see what happens. And it's terrifying. And it's not like it's sometimes or some courts. It's many times in most courts. Shit goes down like this.
These are humans. These are little lives. From ages 12 to 25 is when their brains are really developing.
Yeah.
These are crucial times in so many people's lives. And they are destroying our kids.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, and there's hundreds of children every year lose their lives because these court systems are intentionally placing kids in homes that they know are abusive, that they know have a violent perpetrator, and they completely ignore evidence and force the kids there.
System so they can keep their system going this way, so they can keep the federal money going, they can keep receiving these federal funds, so they can keep their corrupt system going, because if they use that money for good, then people will heal and they won't need those jobs.
Absolutely. Gotta keep the people down so that we keep coming to them and they can keep taking everything that we have.
Our souls, our children.
Yeah, they have a way of sucking the life right out of you.
We don't need them. Nobody asked for them. They create their jobs. They create, and they keep creating more jobs. And DeSantis signed some bill. What is it? $5 million for a bunch of fleet vehicles for DCF so they could go and steal more kids. And another one for a fatherhood incentives. It's like these guys that are just freshly released out of prison, they're putting children with. You'll have to look into it. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. I'm just too upset.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, it's fatherhood incentives. They're putting kids with these guys that are like fresh out of prison. What?
Good God Almighty. And it's getting to the point where we as society, folks, we have to step up. We have to use our voice. We have to pay attention to what politicians are passing these laws, what politicians are doing nothing to help, what politicians aren't even recognizing that these are problems and issues, because it is a huge issue. And I've heard a lot of noise here and there out and about with what I do with advocacy work, that there are a lot of politicians that legitimately try to use the excuse, well, I had no idea. I had no idea this was happening on this level. Okay, so you're either one, you're lying and you are corrupt, or two, you are incompetent and should not have your job.
Right.
Either which way, get going and get somebody in there who knows what the fuck they're doing.
Right. It's one or the other. Like you said, they either know and they're covering it up, or they're completely incompetent. Either way, they don't belong there.
Exactly.
And they're making hefty salaries. Well, and that's all taxpayer money. Where do these people think that people are getting these hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to hurt us? Because they're not helping us. They're not helping we the people at all.
Absolutely.
And these situations that people like me, poverty level, this is way bigger than me in Salem. This is so much bigger than me and my kid.
They don't care what your social status is. I have a good friend of mine in the same area that I'm in has gone through something extremely similar. And I mean, they live in a very fancy house in an exclusive development, and she's got political ties of her own, and they're doing the exact same thing to her.
Well, they hate her, I'm sure. Because since she knows people, and if she makes any waves, they definitely want her gone.
If they don't hate us now, they're about to. If they think we're just going to lay down and let all these people get away with treating their constituents this way, they have another thing coming. You're not going to treat people like that. And I'm not going to keep quiet about it.
When you said constituents, it reminded me when, like, shortly after this happened, I contacted all these agencies, and you think that your representatives are going to help you. I had a meeting with Yvonne Hinson, state representative for Marion County, and it wasn't easy to get an appointment with her. I wish I had recorded that meeting. It was like towards the beginning of the situation. It was when sheriff's office here in Marion County, Billy Woods, they refused to investigate the body cam footage. I keep getting bumped back to DCF. I contact all these people. I went up a few times to the office in Gainesville, to Yvonne Hinson's office there, because she's got a few offices. And I finally got an appointment with her. I end up having this like 2-hour meeting in person with her. I give her copies of all these documents, the body cam footage, all this stuff. And she acted like she really wanted to help me. She calls on speakerphone to the ombudsman for DCF, Heather Rosenberg. She's laughing about stuff. She's telling me that she says that she doesn't like DeSantis, and she's telling me what a creep Billy Woods is and all this stuff. And she's really acting like she's on my side. So a month or so goes by. All my documents get sent back to me, FedEx in a box, and they leave it outside. How do you leave that stuff outside?
Wow.
My thumb drive wasn't in there with the body cam footage. She kept that.
I'd be going back up there and saying, you want to send all my stuff back, girl, you better make sure you send it all back.
I did, and I kept emailing her, and they're ignoring me.
Wow.
I can't get an answer from them anymore.
And which representative is that? So y'all can make sure you don't vote her back in.
Yvonne Hinson. YVONNEHINSON.
We the people, y'all. We the people. They work for us. All you politicians need to find a way to get it through your head that we are your boss. We pay your bills. And it's time that you step up and start listening to the people and start doing your damn job.
Thank you. This is another weird thing, Danielle. I emailed and called DeSantis over and over. I spoke with a guy named Timothy Ring. We emailed back and forth. I spoke with him. He acted like he wanted to help me. About a year later, and I CC him on emails sometimes, then one day I get an automatic reply from his email that he's out of the office that day because he has an appointment, but it actually put that he was at an office. Where is he located? Gainesville, Florida, 10 minutes north of me. He told me that he worked with the governor. You mean in Tallahassee? But how did my call get directed to somebody that works with DCF in Gainesville? You can't make this stuff up.
It's all a great big spider web of evil and corruption.
And I have the emails and recordings and stuff like that, Danielle, to prove it.
If you want to do another podcast where we share all of that information, you're more than welcome to. We can set something up if you want to do that and share what you've got. And
a follow-up where sure viewers can see this and look at this stuff and see, like, what? You think you're crazy sometimes when you call these people that are supposed to be helping you. They're routing my calls to local people right here. You're not helping me.
But they go out of their way to try to make you feel like you're crazy and you're incompetent or you don't know what you're talking about or that's not how this works. And no, I have rights. I have the right to feel safe. I have the right to use my voice. I have the right to have my family and to have that in safety and security. Those are constitutionally given rights that are not to be void.
Right. They don't want you to exercise your rights because if we exercised our rights, if our rights weren't being violated, my son would have not been ever taken from me.
But then to complain about your rights being violated, what kind of a nightmare process is that? If you're even able to find an attorney to take your case and thousands of dollars later.
It's a nightmare.
It's wrong. It's very, very wrong. If you ask me, family courts should be abolished.
Yes, they should.
Altogether. They should just completely be abolished.
Not about dependency court. There's family court, dependency court, civil court.
CPS, all that shit needs to just
be gone.
Go away. And I understand there's a need for services of such, but it's time to wipe that slate clean and start over from square one.
Right. Let us handle it.
Build it properly. Again, it's a right to have trial by jury. So for them to not offer family courts the opportunity to have a trial by jury and to allow one person to be in charge of making a decision that affects countless lives, because it's the mother, the father, the children, the families, of the extended families, that's a lot of people's lives that these judges are put in sole control and power to do whatever the hell they want. And unfortunately, it is far too common that they are going into some extreme dangerous routes when they're making their rulings on these things.
They want money and they don't care who they hurt.
They prefer the high conflict because high conflict means more, hearings, more attorney involvement, and we got to get the guardian ad litem involved, and it's all a money scheme. It's all a money scheme, first of all. And second of all, if you have to go to family court, that's family court. There shouldn't be any charges for that.
Right.
At all.
Right.
Period. You can't expect families to be forced into a situation to where they have to magically come up with thousands of dollars. There are way too many families that cannot do that. And for our system to put so many people in a position to where they're just like, oh, well, we don't care if your rights are violated. We don't care if you don't have proper representation. We don't care if your case isn't being heard properly the way it needs to be, and just brush it off like it's nothing. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. We deserve better as human beings, much less constituents of the state.
They don't, it's almost like they enjoy hurting people.
Unfortunately, with a lot of the research that I've done actually, let me rephrase that, with nearly all of the research that I have done, it all comes back to trafficking and our government being a huge part of that.
I don't know what they're doing to my son.
Unfortunately, it's just too easy for them to put children in dangerous situations, and to have a young child like that who is, even if there's just a concern about autism being an issue, that alone should make that a much more delicate situation, to where you would think that they'd be doing some serious investigations and being extra careful at where that child resides. I mean, you can't place a child with autism with somebody who has a violent nature.
They're saying he's happy. They just keep saying he's happy, healthy, and thriving. No, he isn't. Really? He hasn't grown at all in almost 2 years. And he's lost what? He's lost 30% of his body?
That's a sign of not only malnutrition, stress, depression, anxiety. That's not normal to lose weight like that.
No.
At all. Even for a grown adult to lose that much weight in that amount of time, when if they're not doing anything differently, it makes zero sense. And there's no possible way that a child is growing taller and losing weight. It's just not scientifically possible.
Hasn't grown at all. All the kids around here told me, they said, Heidi, he's shorter than you. I'm 5 feet. Salem was 4'10" on August 1st. He's still shorter than me. He hasn't grown a single centimeter in almost 2 years. And he's like 60 something pounds. Maybe he's 70 pounds by now, but he should be at least 100 pounds and taller than me by now, or at least the same height as me.
Right.
He hasn't grown at all in almost 2 years. And we'll be lucky if Salem's hit 70 pounds. So he's smaller. He's smaller now than he was 20 months ago. 650 days. That there's something severely wrong, emotionally and physically.
Absolutely. There's something going on. That's definitely not normal. That's for certain.
I am beyond grateful that my son is still alive. It's terrifying. How do you put a child with a guy that never wanted him? If you don't want him with me, then at least just put him somewhere that he's safe.
It's just horrifying that a mother would be put into this situation at all, to feel like they have to say something like that.
It's so scary. Really, if they really believe that I hurt Salem, if they really believe that I hurt my son, then don't let him anywhere near me. But please put him somewhere safe. Not with those people that hate me and are taking it out on my son. Put him somewhere safe, somewhere that Salem feels safe, somewhere where they're going to give Salem what he needs because of his sensory issues. I believe that Salem doesn't know what happened that night, and they've convinced him that I tried to him. Maybe Salem truly believes now that I tried to hurt him. And if what they've made my son believe and he doesn't want to be near me, then just put him somewhere where he can eat and rest, but not with them because he can't eat. He's so tiny.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's got to be somewhere safe. It's devastating for you as well, obviously, but
He needs to be in
he's
therapy.
a child.
He needs to be in therapy. He doesn't need to be getting on a school bus every day. He doesn't have anything that he truly needs. He's not okay. My son is not okay. If my son was okay, I would feel it. I'm his mother. If your child's not okay, you feel it. You don't have to be next to them. You don't have to see them. We're bonded.
Motherly instincts are a thing.
Yeah. So my son needs help. He already needed help before this happened, and I was trying to get him help. That's the thing. When I found out he was poisoning me, I didn't hurt him. I took him to the hospital. When he was hurting himself and our animals in the house, I didn't hurt him. I took him to get help.
And that's what a safe parent does.
The lady, the Ashley Hoster lady, wrote on the petition for removal. She actually wrote on there that I made him drink poison. Salem was poisoning me.
And she said that it was you poisoning him?
She wrote on the petition for removal that I made Salem drink poison, Danielle. No, it's on the interior cam footage from Justin Cheney's vehicle. Salem told her he poisoned me at least 3 times in order not to get Baker acted again. She wrote on the petition for removal, mother made him drink poison. If that was the case, then he would have had to go to an emergency room.
Yeah, there would definitely be some sort of medical documentation for that. And don't you have medical documentation that you were poisoned?
Yes, I do. He was Baker acted for poisoning me. He admitted it to the doctors.
It's horrifying what they can,
The lies.
how they can take our evidence and twist it to try to use it against us.
When I read that after getting out of jail, I'm reading it. I'm like, what do you mean drink poison? I'm like, he was never seen by a doctor. I'm like, what? I'm like, how can they write this as fact and take my son and give him to this violent family? Like, why he wasn't seen by anybody? And they wrote on there strangulation marks. Strangulation marks? No, strangulation marks. I can show you. Go on my other thing here. The EMTs clearly said there was no injuries to my son. They said one small red mark. One small red mark, Danielle. That was my son's neck the day of incident.
And now what was he trying to hit himself with?
The dog chain. I saw him standing on his school chair.
You would think that they would be able to bring in some sort of forensic analysis that would be able to tell you what direction those bruises are from. If you're a police department, you kind of have to, what's that word? Investigate, do your job, getting forensics and evaluations and things of that nature to find out what it is that actually happened. Kind of comes with the territory.
When I went to the sheriff and I spoke with IA, Sergeant Julie Vowinkle, and I told her that on the body cam, Sergeant Jared Shealy, before Salem was found, he said, this address rung a bell. This is the lady that got battle fired. So when I told you earlier that the father hit me down at the lake in April of 21, the cop that showed up never uploaded the domestic violence paperwork, never uploaded my sworn written statement, and didn't activate his body cam when he went to go talk to the father. I didn't find that out until January of 23. So Ryan Battle was a 21-year-old rookie deputy. Him and I slept together one time. He showed up like a knight in shining armor after the father hit me. He abused his power in order to seduce me. I made a complaint about him, not because of that, but because he was calling all the time and checking on me in Salem, and then his behavior got really weird. And I felt that him being a cop and his weird behavior, like lying about simple things and stuff like that. I said, Ryan, I said, you're a police officer and your behavior, I said, you can't act like this being a cop, dangerous. My father was a cop. And he got really weird. And I made a complaint about him to his sergeant, Jared Shealy. Sergeant Julie Fullwinkle and her partner, they came out and did an interview with me. A week after that, she called me and told me that he resigned. But she told me it didn't have anything to do with me. Why? Why did she say that?
Yeah, that's kind of odd to offer up that information out of the blue for no purpose if there is no purpose for it.
And he didn't activate his body cam and everything. Tell me the truth so I can get the report. Because when I went to court, I had a temporary injunction against Chad. When I went to court, the judge denied me a restraining order against him and wouldn't let Salem testify. She let Chad's mother and boyfriend testify who weren't at the lake that day. And she even said, it seems like you're someone's relationship with his father. You should explore that. I was like, what? He hit me. And I was like, what's going on here? So then fast forward a year and a half when Salem tries to take his life, then I go to jail for 2 days. I come out. I wait months to get the body cam. I'm watching it with my therapist. And she's like, Heidi, what did he say? And I'm like, what? This address rung a bell. This is the lady that got battle fired. I'm like, what? I didn't get anybody fired. So the whole reason that they arrested me is because they're taking vengeance upon me because they're blaming this cop getting fired on me. So you take my baby from me because this cop didn't do his job.
Retaliation is very real.
So,
and how do you stop retaliation when you're being retaliated against by the police department and family courts and CPS? What do you do?
I don't know. I've been fighting this for a long time. In January of 23, when Sergeant Bullwinkle told me about that, I got the report on battle and everything, and she said to me when I told her about Shealy, how he said that, and then Deputy Kevin Turner said to Shealy on the body cam, he said the kid has a different story. Shealy says on the cam, are we gonna believe an 11-year-old or crazy mom? And Bullwinkle said, he said that on camera. I said, yes. She said, bring me everything you have. She said, I'm here every day from 8 to 5. Danielle, I went there the next day and she was packing up her desk. She was in IA for years. They transferred her back to the road.
Wow. That's some serious cover-up shit they're pulling over that way.
Ever since then, they won't watch any of the footage. They won't watch any of the body cam footage from my thing. I'll email you the stuff. They said all my complaints are unfounded.
Well, send it over to me and we'll do a podcast and we'll see what the people think. It's got to be hard. It's got to be really hard. I can't even begin to imagine. And I had nights where I was terrified of them doing that. They were definitely insinuated multiple times during the 3 years I went through a miserable court process trying to keep my child safe. And yeah, there were multiple times they made comments or insinuations and even went so far as to make false accusations against me and comment, oh, well, that alone should have warranted Child Protective Services to get involved and remove her. And like, I'm sorry, excuse you, what? It's disgusting the way they treat us like we're not even human. And they just can come in and make up whatever they want. And their word is taken for their word, and lives are just flipped upside down. And many times there's not even any evidence, less justification.
What evidence was here? They never did an investigation.
If I were you, I'd try calling around to some big time attorney offices in a city nearby you and sue. I'd tell them you want to sue. As long as you got the evidence that you could prove that your rights were violated and things were, handled improperly, and which, I mean, from the sounds of it, you've got plenty of that. That is grounds for a lawsuit. A judge can only maintain their assurance that they don't have to deal with that unless they break the law. As soon as they break the law, they don't have that immunity anymore.
Yeah, I need somebody to actually go after them.
Right. Yeah, I would try some attorneys in a bigger city near you that handles lawsuits. I would look into suing them. It might be easier to find an attorney for something like that than it will for somebody to fight for you through family court, as sad as that is.
Oh yeah, I definitely have a huge lawsuit, especially since they destroyed my brand new surgery in September. The cops caused this.
Jesus.
6 deputies attacked me in September right after I had surgery. My surgeon had to fix it. Monday will be 2 weeks.
Good God. Do you have camera footage of that? I'm
Oh.
telling you, sue the fuck out of every single one of those losers.
Deputy grabbed my phone out of my hand. He said, "You're not recording." It was It was Facebook Live.
Yes, that is badass.
I had my service dog with me. They ripped her away from me. I was recording the whole thing. I was in there filing papers for my criminal case.
You know, it makes you wonder how many times there's been instances where police did that and got into these people's phone illegally and deleted the evidence. Makes me wonder how many times that's happened. It has to be a lot.
Yeah. Well, I have
It has to.
when I got out of jail 49 days later for a TikTok post. There's another one. You can't go to jail over social media. Hi, 49 days in jail over freedom of speech.
That's just insane. Mind blowing.
And please, whatever you believe in, good vibes, energy, prayers, please send them mine in Salem's way because my baby's not okay.
Sure. Well, hopefully this will help get your story out a bit, and praying that you can find the help that you need and get somebody to stand up and speak out for you.
And I have a ton of stuff posted on my TikTok. My TikTok is Spiky99 or Heidi R662. There's a ton of stuff on there.
Yeah, I'll check that out and I'll go through some stuff on there and shoot me over your evidence.
I made up a hashtag last year, Get Salem to Mommies. Before TikTok changed it, I had like over 200,000 views. There's a lot of people that support us.
Yeah, good. You need and deserve that.
Yeah, so that's another way that people can see our story because it's on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
I'll include the links in the description below. So if anybody wants to check out her pages and offer her some love and encouragement and support, you can do so via those links.
Yeah, Get Salem to Mommy. I really miss him. But like I said, if they really think that I'm a harm to him, if anybody really believes that, then don't give him to me. But make sure he's safe because he's not. He's surrounded by criminals.
Violent criminals at that.
Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, you're so very welcome. Yeah, get me that stuff and we'll do another one to update people and show them what you got, and hopefully the right person will see this and be able to help you out and you can move forward. Keep your little boy safe.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So much love to you. Thank you.
Right back at you. You're in my thoughts and prayers, and keep in contact. Let me know what's going on and get me that stuff. And
it'll take me a little bit of time because there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
I have so many files. So yeah, it's unbelievable what people do. Just the lies that they tell, the cover-ups. It's disgusting.
It is. And for all you viewers out there that are like, yeah, but that doesn't happen that often. Bullshit. It happens all the time. I don't care what state you're in. Every single state has family court systems somewhere within that state, if not the vast majority, and in some states, all of them.
Yep.
Oh, the same shit.
It's happening right now. Unfortunately, CPS is destroying somebody's life right now, and we have to stop it.
Children are regularly placed with abusers.
We're going to stop it.
Amen.
We're all coming together.
It's we the people. And I really hope that more of society starts to get that soon. It's already starting to spread like wildfire. People all over the country are finally starting to stand up and use their voices, in particular when it comes to family courts and CPS, because it's just terrifying and disgusting what they are doing and getting away with. And their days are numbered. They're not going to keep getting away with this for long.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a blessed, beautiful night and keep in touch.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.